Today I'm joined by Harman Bhangu. Born and raised here in Canada to first-generation immigrants, Harman spent 17 years in the heavy-load trucking industry, working as an aggregate hauler. In 2024, he was successfully elected to be MLA for Langley Abbotsford and currently serves as the BC Conservative Party's critic for transportation. On today's show, we're going to talk about Bill 15, transportation infrastructure, government transparency, and accountability. Harman, thank you for being on Coastal Front today.
Thanks for having me on, Andrew. It's my pleasure being here.
Yeah, great. It's my pleasure as well. All right, I'm going to go straight into this. I want to talk about this fairly heated Bill 15, and for the benefit of the listeners and viewers. On May 28th, the BC NDP passed Bill 15, a sweeping piece of legislation that allows the provincial government to fast-track government projects without requiring input from local governments or First Nations. Critics argue the bill weakens checks and balances and centralizes too much power in Victoria. What's your take on Bill 15?
Well, Bill 15 right now. Next year we have municipal elections. Why are we going to waste money on municipal elections if there's a Bill 15 here, when they can go in and pick the winners and choosers of what projects, what municipalities do, and how even school boards operate? They don't take that input. And that is a key thing that it is for municipal government. I think it plays a key role. Municipalities create a roadmap, and I think provincially what you need to see is elected officials, MLAs, go and work with your municipalities, have a good working relationship, figure out if they want to have some sort of density, some sort of projects coming in an area. Is there some sort of space allocated for a future school, a market, a learning center, anything? I think these are very vital in building communities. And right now, what the NDP's done is said, you know what? We know what's best for your community. We don't care about your councillor, mayor, or school trustees. We're going to tell you how things are. And then you look at it with the projects. What projects, Andrew, are going to be expedited and brought to the front? Is it going to be just wind, solar, and every kind of green project? Or are we going to get our mining and really get serious about getting some revenue flowing into this province so we can actually build the infrastructure, build the hospitals, the schools that we need?
Right, with the revenue from those projects.
Yeah, that's one thing we haven't done. We haven't made an investment in our resource sector. Mm-hmm. Getting a mine started here, John said it multiple times, 10, 15-year process. Yeah. Who's going to come in here and invest in this?
Yeah.
And even with the tech for agriculture, I was at an event just a couple weeks ago at UFV, and in that room they were talking about private investment. But I was looking around, I'm like, not a single person here votes other than maybe the Liberal, NDP, or Green, and they have killed private investment in this country. The carbon tax, it's a myth that it's gone. It's still on the producers. You get your home heating bill, it's still on there.
Yeah.
So when you're going to try and bring in this new tech and power it and make it better for every industry, there's a cost to that on the energy.
Yeah.
And when investors coming in, before they get the products to market, get them to the farms where they can actually recoup some of the money, they're not going to come in here and float all that money and just have a sinking hole. They're going to go invest in other countries where they can see a faster return.
Right.
That's just how business works.
Yeah, well said. So going back to Bill 15, I mean, I summarized it for the listeners, but why don't you summarize for the listeners the position that the BC Conservative Party has taken? Because you guys, this went to vote, and it passed, and it's an amazing bill because and how unfolded. Because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the BC Conservatives and the BC Greens, who you would argue are like on the other ends of the spectrum, both voted against this. Is that correct?
Yeah.
But it got passed because the Speaker of the House was the tie-breaking vote? Even the three independents voted against it?
Yes, because no one wants the NDP right now to pick winners and choosers. Look at their track record on infrastructure and construction. They haven't completed a single project. And now they're going to dump a bunch of money into their hand-picked friends' pockets that are running these projects. And not a lot of British Columbians want that. We need real investment, Andrew. We need to get our mining. We have minerals we need to get out of the ground. We have LNG. We missed that boat. Now Japan's
But couldn't you argue though that if I was to take the position of the BC NDP, couldn't you argue that actually passing Bill 15 gets you to these projects faster because now they can overstep Indigenous bands and First Nations. They can overstep municipal government. They can just basically fast track these projects.
Well,
That's what they said,
yeah,
right?
listen, I'm all for fast tracking, cutting that red tape and everything.
Yeah.
But I want that money being invested in projects that are going to bring some revenue, some wealth.
Okay,
to
so
this
your concern
province.
isn't about the overreaching power of Bill 15. It's more about how it's
Them
going to be
picking the
applied.
winners and losers. That's
Okay.
what it's about. Look at the track record of the NDP. Every single industry is struggling. Everything, crime, housing, you name it. It's at an all-time low in this province. And do you really trust this government to fast-track projects?
Right.
And like, imagine if they fast-tracked the last 8 years into 3. How terrible of a situation will be.
Yeah.
They were the ones who were parading around the decriminalization and all these policies that Justin Trudeau was preaching. David Eby pretty much said, let's go. Let's roll them out.
Right.
Let's have this be the test ground. You look at the downtown east side. You look at Pandora. You telling me that's compassion? That's caring about people with addiction and problems?
Yeah.
I personally don't. I dealt with addiction myself. I thank God that there wasn't someone to give me safe supply and say, here you go, Harman.
Right.
Keep going on.
You'll
Don't
be
worry
okay.
about it. You'll be okay. No, I wouldn't be here right now having this conversation with you.
Yeah.
I think it's time we pick people up.
Yeah.
We get them back into society. And if we want to create housing, we need to get creative. These people are going to need jobs after. They're going to need lives. Why not have SROs with a bottom space where they can have some commercial, where they can start up businesses with people who have recovered? And I'll tell you, British Columbians would visit those businesses because they want fellow British Columbians to succeed and do well in life.
Right. Right.
People love the comeback story.
Yeah, they sure do.
Yeah.
Well, that was almost the theme of the Conservative Party in this last election. It's
Mhm.
quite remarkable. I mean, you got the oldest, longest standing provincial party. I think it's been like almost 100 years old or maybe older. And yourself, John Rusted, and other BC Conservatives nearly almost won from almost nothing, from coming over to nowhere.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's remarkable where we came from when I first got involved. When I got on the board as a regional director in Surrey, and I ran in the by-election in Surrey South to kind of kick the party off. And Aaron Gunn had a great deal of help in there. Angelo, Asia, SD. There's a lot of people that played a big part in this.
Yeah.
And it's been a great ride. And I think that we've built a great base. We've built some bridges into communities. Now it's time to put down the foundation. We can go in and out, spread our message, and just connect with a broader range of British Columbians. Doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is.
Right.
I think we have values that really resonate with a lot of the newcomers that are coming here, a lot of the people in ethnic communities. It's really starting to, especially the youth.
Mhm.
Now myself, I'm 40. I was born here. A lot of my cousins, their parents, everyone, the ones that were born here, their parents, everyone's kind of getting older. Unfortunately, my dad passed away 8 years ago, kind of got thrown into it early, right after getting married. And it was sink or swim. And, I started having to work with my brother. We started having to write the checks and starting to do the checks and balances. And now you look at society, it's just really tough. And a lot of the youth, I talk to them, and they say, I don't have a place in a lot of these political parties. And I would always tell them, well, I'm with the Conservatives. They treat me great.
Right.
And it's amazing over here. Everyone's really friendly. Everyone cares about the principles of like this country and how great it's been for everyone. A beacon of hope. You can come here from anywhere.
Mhm.
There's religious freedom. You have opportunity to work hard and make it. Like my father did, came here, my mom with nothing, 3 kids. We're able to raise a beautiful family for us, amazing life for us.
Yeah.
My dad worked at mills, truck, worked 2 jobs, sometimes day and night. That was a dream. You can work hard, you can get somewhere.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you look around and I look at it, if my dad came here, it's like modern day slavery, honestly, Andrew.
Right.
You look at some of these worker programs that are rolled
Mhm.
out, they're extorting
Well,
people, taking
I think you
advantage
should
of them.
find some time to talk about worker rights. I know it's a big one for you and labor practices, especially considering that the party in power today is the one who has always historically represented the labor community and labor movement. To finish off on Bill 15, I was kind of thinking myself, like, what would have caused, like, why would, arguably the BC NDP and David Eby have a majority government. So why would they need to pass this Bill 15? Like, why wouldn't they just be able to operate like they, every other government has ever operated? And I was thinking, well, they did actually make some pretty sweeping changes to the way in which municipalities approve real estate projects, right? I mean, there's the one that I think of is how now here in British Columbia, every single single family lot can immediately be converted to a 4-plex or 6-plex, regardless of what and they force the municipalities to change.
It's a massive issue in my riding.
Is it really?
Of land.
And
it is.
And is it a good thing or not a good thing?
No, it's not a good thing. Our infrastructures, like our sewer systems, everything is really outdated. We have no funding towards that. And
it's creating a problem?
It is creating a problem. The ground's like a sponge, Andrew.
Yeah.
When you start digging and you start building bigger homes and other homes, the groundwater shifts.
Right.
There's a lot of issues that happen in Surrey with this. They started building big homes, really big homes, and later on they realized affect the groundwater. They couldn't build 3-story anymore, 2-story. People bought homes in that area to build 3-story, to have several families live in there. And now you're going in there, you're putting in all these other lots and you're just densifying it. There's been no infrastructure. Like Highway 1's a standstill still. And you look at the Milner, Highway 10.
Let's jump to that topic, because you are the critic for transportation, right? Yeah. And who is the Minister of Transportation today?
Mike Farnworth.
Mike Farnworth, okay. Isn't he out in your area as well? Somewhere in the valley?
Port Coquitlam, I believe.
Port Coquitlam,
yeah.
Okay. He's been with them for a long time.
For a very long time, yeah. Okay. 30 plus years, I believe.
All right, I'm going to just pick some subjects, some big projects. I'm going to name them, and then what I'd like you to do is 2 things. One is for those listeners that might not be familiar with that, because we have listeners and viewers all across British Columbia. Yeah. So I'm going to name it. I'll start with the Broadway subway project. So I want you to tell the listeners and viewers in layman's terms what it is, and then what it should become, and what we're seeing happening. Yeah. And we'll do that. We'll repeat that a couple of times. So let's start with Broadway, the Broadway subway project. What is it today? What's it supposed to be? What does it look like it's becoming? And what is your critiques on it?
Well, Broadway subway project is like another SkyTrain type situation set up. And they have been tunneling for a while now, and they've been working at it.
And where is it going, just to give listeners?
It's going right through the core, right down through Broadway, right through, but it doesn't get to UBC. That was one thing that I noticed in this. If you really want to
Takes you from downtown, right?
Yeah.
Downtown to, I think, is it stop at Arbutus?
Arbutus, yeah.
Arbutus, yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't get you into the core of the UBC, which I
fell short
it fell short for sure. That could have really reduced a lot of the traffic, and it could have helped a lot of students get in and out. And the one issue that had with that, it was the way the project was being done and the budget and everything, the way with the community benefits agreement, things were really, really busy during that time when COVID, construction was almost the only industry out there. So people were running projects. A lot of things had to be overbid. So you saw the prices change, and there's only a certain type of labor force that can work on these projects. You're limited
what does that mean?
to. So you have to be in certain unions to get into the community benefits agreement.
So, okay, before we get into Broadway and these others for a little further, let's get into this, because I think a lot of people aren't even familiar with this.
They have no idea.
No, so let's dumb this down. So first of all, community benefits agreement. What is that?
So it's a policy where some of the main unionized companies that are under the TRIPAC agreement, they can bid on certain jobs. They're the first ones.
Who made the community benefits agreement?
That was the NDP.
This is some kind of legislation.
NDP created this when they first got in.
Okay.
And then they rolled out the program saying, the union workforce has dropped down. They're not getting on jobs. So we want to have certain jobs that are only for unionized companies under the TRIPAC. Which,
what's the TRIPAC?
That's 3. There's like 3 unions that are involved with the main road building, and they create the TRIPAC, and those are usually known to be the main road building unions that there are that are approved by this agreement.
Okay.
So what happened is...
So the BC, just to dumb this down, so the BC NDP, it sounds like a while ago now, passed some kind of legislation or created a program which basically said, we're going to build roads.
Yeah.
We're going to build infrastructure, but we're only going to let bidding for those projects to the private sector be available to 3 different union-based. Like your workforce has to have a union with one of these 3 unions.
Yeah.
And if you're not, so if I'm just a private enterprise like operator, and I'm not part of one of my labor and my workforce are not part of one of those 3 unions, or they're not unionized at all.
Yeah.
I can't even bid.
No.
At all?
No, you can't bid at all.
Well, what does that do for pricing?
Exactly. There's only a certain few
Like,
people that
I
can
mean,
bid on it.
If it's just the three of
So
us
if
in the
it's-
room
if
and
there's
everybody
4 or
else
5
can't
people,
bid.
you can go and have a nice little dinner. Be like, hey, no one bid below this, and let's see what we can do. Or I get
Doesn't
one
that
section.
cause like
It does.
total
It-
abuse of pricing and
it
like
does.
collusion?
Yeah.
It's like sounds like we're creating like almost our own version of OPEC.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's the
Everybody sets
issue.
the price, and
That's the issue with this. And we have a lot of
how many
Canadian-
projects are falling under this community?
A lot of the main ones. You're looking at Broadway. I think the tunnel will be rolled out the same way. Total Bridge has been done like that.
So as I drive along Broadway,
Yeah.
and I see all this work being done, and I see different brands, I see like different names of companies that are doing tunneling,
Yeah.
and
They all have to sign up.
scaffolding and stress.
So there's
So
ways
they-
you can temporarily sign up your company too and get it on into the community benefits agreement if you have the right partnerships.
Yeah. And Harman, why were these three unions selected? Like, what made them special?
Well, it's always been like the road building brand. Like these are the three main unions that have the workforce, which they're great, right? I have nothing against the unions or anything. I just feel like the share of the work should be broader because what happens now is a lot of these companies will buy up the projects, they'll bid on them, they'll get them, they'll wait on them, and they'll start shopping them around, and they'll get subcontracted out. And that's what's created a big problem for the Canadian-based companies here who are trying to stay afloat and keep going. They always have projects that are bid on. They end up missing it. They end up having to do that project for the person that they were bidding against. That's the
Really?
issues that it's kind of creating. And you look at a lot of some of the companies, they don't even get a chance or a whiff at these. And they're Canadian-based companies right here, born and bred in BC from day one.
So this theme of like buy Canadian isn't necessarily being applied in
No,
this context.
no, it's not. And a lot of other ways too, right? With like a lot of the products.
Are any of these three unions non-Canadian unions? Are they all Canadian unions?
No, there's some of them aren't Canadian unions.
Of these three
Yeah.
these three, what are the names of the unions? Do you know?
I believe it's the 115 IUOE and
Yeah.
also Teamsters, and there's, I believe it's Ironworker.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Broadway subway project. Issue number one for that is a common theme for these others is that in order for these projects to get completed, the work being done has to be done by companies who have labor, their labor force are unionized under this community benefits agreement. I mean, it sounds really nice, right?
Well, like
Community
every
benefits.
project, you look at the subway right now is just announced. It was supposed to open this fall. Now it's 2 years delayed, and who knows what the cost is going to be. It's probably well over $3 billion. Right
Has
now
there
it's
been any updates?
2.95. They
Okay.
just did update 2 days ago. I was just on,
What was the original cost supposed to be?
I believe it was 2.6,
Okay.
right around there.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about Highway 1 Corridor Improvement Program.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the listeners, viewers, where is this? What is it? And where are we at right now?
It's pretty much a parking lot. That project, it's
So
they've
where
been
we're
working on it from day one.
This is in, where is this situated?
Situated like 216 all the way down to 264 is the main part that's being worked on now.
It's in
Then,
Surrey?
through it would be, yes, through Surrey, through Langley, almost up towards Abbotsford.
Okay.
Then the next phase will be 264 and on, right
Yeah.
up towards Sumas. And that's the one thing. You talk to anyone in the valley, what we talk about is, you know, our biggest pinch point is right where they're at Sumas. Why would they not connect it a little further down towards Chilliwack so it helped the main flow?
Right.
And that was a big knock on it. And also, by the time this project's going to be done, it looks like 2034 or 2031 is what they're saying. Yes, I
Wow.
saw that look on your face. It is
It's a
2031.
long time from now.
A long time from now. And you look at the way the funding, when I looked at the budget breakdown, it doesn't even look like most of the work's going to start for a couple of years.
Wow.
So it's a parking lot that's sitting there, and we have goods we need to get to market. There's truckers, everyone out there trying to get their goods moved at a good price. This is just going to add to it.
So, Harman, if you were not the critic for transportation, but if you were Mike Farnworth's position and you were the Minister of Transportation, how would you operate differently? Like, how would you get Highway 1 corridor today in 2025 completed faster than getting it, like, basically almost 9 years from now?
Well, you look at how many projects they got going everywhere.
It's too many?
Do they have the money for this?
Right.
right? That's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Well,
You
we've
gotta
seen
take a business sense to it.
we've seen the credit rating agencies continually downgrade the province because of these massive deficits. I think we're going to go over $10 billion in this next fiscal year on a deficit.
Exactly.
It's kind
if
of
you're in a
insane,
business venture, are you going to start 4 or 5 businesses and you're just going to do a little bit teach and you're not going to launch any of them?
Right.
You're going to want to get to a point where you're launching a business and you're bringing in
Get
some
to
revenue.
completion.
You're getting something going. You're getting things flowing. We should have focused
So
on
if you were a minister, would you basically like halt or like you would just stop a couple of these projects so that you can focus your energy on getting 1 or 2
We're
completed?
at that point, Andrew. We're
Are
going
we?
to have to do something. You can't keep starting these projects and keep halving them halfway. It creates a labor nightmare. It creates an economic nightmare, and it deters business.
So what would you shelve and what would you keep going right now? If you
need to work on that tunnel right away. It needs to be done. We need to get that out of the way.
So just to make sure the listeners and viewers are familiar, you're talking about the Massie tunnel, which was built in the 1950s or 60s, I think, maybe.
But the thing is, environmental. When's it going to get past environmental? They just put through the review right now, and they don't even actually. It's conflicting reports. They don't know where it's going to sit. So do they even have the land acquisition where that tunnel is going to sit? That's the big issue.
So we're not even close to having it.
Not even close.
There's been,
I think the bridge would have been built
not the
right
last
now.
election.
The bridge would have been built.
Yeah.
Like our ports
The
would have
BC
been.
Liberals are like sort of. This is the part I want to understand. Maybe you can just pause for a second and help me understand this. Before the 2024 election, the previous one we had, which was it 2020 or something like that? 2020. You had and I know you're not part of the BC Liberals, but the BC Liberals are they're like, we're the bridge people. And then like the NDP are like, we're the tunnel people. Yeah. And it was almost like because the BC Liberals said bridge, the NDP had to say tunnel. And it's just like, and me as a guy who would drive through that tunnel to just go to see my grandfather in Tawasin and like get stuck sitting there forever or trying to get to the ferry. I'm like, I don't really care if it's a bridge or a tunnel. I just want to get where I'm going and not have to wait forever. Can you explain before we get into like the nuances of where we're at today? Like, why was there this huge debate? Like, does it really matter, or is there something?
There is a few key things. So for the ports, when the bridge came in, it was a little bit of slight design fault. It wasn't high enough to get the tankers underneath. So that was revisited. They were going to make it higher, and the tankers could get underneath. And then what the next issue was, if they put a tunnel, it has to be deep enough for the ships to get through, because right now the way the tunnel is, it's hard to get those tankers to come in without disrupting the ground and affecting the tunnel structure. And another thing too is like common sense would tell you have farming communities on both sides, oversized equipment. You have a port right here that goes to Vancouver. Dangerous goods, flammable goods can't go through tunnels.
Okay.
If there's an accident in a tunnel, you have to shut it to one lane. It's Transport Canada safety rules.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And right now,
that's the merit of having
one thing right now. So
does one cost more than the other in general? Like
tunnel would cost a lot more.
Tunnels always cost more.
Yeah, it will cost more.
Okay.
A lot more concrete, a lot more other things that come into play, environmental and everything else.
Yeah.
So now when they've released the diagrams of what the tunnel is going to look like, so they have the middle area where people can walk and bus. What are they going to walk and bus into? Open highway? So now they're probably going to have to create another overpass crossing to get off to the side routes, because it looks great on that picture, but I had a couple glaring questions in there right in the middle. So everyone's just going to bike out, you're going to go down the highway and you're just going to enter the highway, so you're going to have to put another overpass. There's a lot of other things that are going to needed to be added to it. Where are these people going to walk to? Where are they going to bike to? They don't even have the second exit into Ladner.
Wow.
So there's a lot missing here. And Highway 17, when that was done, there was a big glare where the 99-17, you're going towards South Surrey. There was no direct way to get down towards Patolo Bridge when you're coming in. And that was a huge missed opportunity there too. Now people have to go down, do the roundabout, then get down towards the Patolo Bridge. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that were short-sighted then. Let's not make those same mistakes now, because once you build this, it's built. It's built.
Well
right?
said. Yeah.
Like, let's not short end this. Let's actually think this through. Will this work? Because another thing that was good with the bridge was the SkyTrain adaptability.
Right.
You could have built on rails just on the side and had SkyTrain.
Right.
And that's a great way to add transit, that really fast, effective. Then you can have local routes with transit that take you into the communities.
Yeah.
Even on the Highway 1, I'm surprised they didn't think of any kind of light rail, any kind of thing to help transit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well said. Look, you come from a trucking background, and, trucking, the trucking service business is like sort of the bedrock to the economy. Like if you can't move goods, you're not doing anything. Especially in our industry, like here in BC. I mean, we're a production and export province, right? What do you hear on the street amongst the fellow truckers out there when it comes to the issues we're touching on right now? Like our truck drivers in the Lower Mainland in Metro Vancouver and the Fraser Valley, is it kind of business as usual and these are just small inconveniences, or is the situation getting worse and worse?
It's getting worse and worse. I'll tell you straight up, it's one of the most cutthroat industries, and it happens to be immigration plays a big part into it. I can talk about this because of my skin color, but if anyone else brings it up, it's a big issue, and I don't think it needs to be. It's about British Columbian safety. You see a lot of these accidents. It's because people don't know. So when you're talking about
immigrants, you're talking about like the people
temporary
driving
foreign worker programs. A lot of companies will apply for those. They can't find local drivers. There's going to be a big exodus of truckers in the future. That's why I'll probably touch upon it later about the rail. Well, I'm a big believer in rail to move product.
Okay.
But the issue right now is a lot of workers are coming in under these programs. Carriers are taking advantage of them. They're telling them, move this load. Don't you want to check it? Well, then go home. You're not working today. If you're not going to work, I'm not signing your papers to stay here. You're getting out of this country.
Oh, wow.
This is happening. There's even stories I've had people come to me saying, you know what, I have to live in this guy's basement and they have 3 square meals. They cut it off and give me the leftover money at the end of the month. These are real life stories. This is stuff that's really happening out there.
Wow.
And now with a lot of these drivers, they're up against it. Sometimes I don't even blame the driver. It's the carriers that we need to get strict. We need to have some oversight on this. The overpass strikes all the time. All the time.
Yeah, I know.
I keep asking myself, what is it?
It's amazing the number of times you see these images, and it's kind of like, it's funny when you see a clip on social media, but it's actually very dangerous and scary when you see
when I see it. I'm like, holy shit! Someone could have been killed.
100%.
And that's the missing element.
The part that I don't understand is like,
why don't we care about safety anymore?
Well, what I'm perplexed by is you look at how much energy and resources have been applied to fixing the short-term rental housing issue, supposedly, and destroying economies like in the Okanagan and Kelowna. It's being destroyed because of these goofy rules of short-term.
Go to Surrey, all those condos. A lot of people were Airbnb them. People are finding out now. People were Airbnb them, and now you can't even sell them. Ones that were built for $550, $560, $600. You barely sell them for $420, $450. The NDP thinks that my generation wants to live in 2-bedroom boxes. You're mistaken. My kids will go nuts in there. You're going to make my life miserable putting them in there. We actually want some space. Maybe when you're doing new developments, don't start putting 5,000 square foot mansions everywhere. Make some smaller lots, 3,500 with 1,800 square foot home. Let's start building towards what people can afford too. Right. So,
but my point is, Harman, that's well said. My point is that there's been so much energy and effort put into this whole idea that, we're going to fix the housing issue by demonizing the Airbnb operators in the province. And I'm like, look, these are small operators. These are people running a single hotel room kind of thing. They actually
friends who save hard. They want to do something.
They contribute,
or they can visit with their family sometimes.
Absolutely.
Or they can rent out, make a little more income so they can enjoy their lives. Put their kids through hockey. Put them through sports. Because when I was knocking on doors, people were saying the gas bills are so high, I can't afford to take my kids to 2 to 3 sports. I told them pick one.
Really?
That's heartbreaking. We want kids to stay out of violent crime and gangs and everything. Well, we need something parents can afford that they can get their kids involved in.
What other, when it comes to the topic of transportation, and you're the critic for transportation for the BC Conservative government, for the BC Conservative Party, Harman, what are some other like big things that are, you're quite critical of this current BC government. And, what are some other things you'd love to see changed?
I'd like to see some mining going. We need to get our mines up. We
Yeah.
need to start building the infrastructure to get those mines going when we're ready to get our product to market.
Right.
And when we get the building permits, it can't we spend 2-3 years building the roads, the haul roads and everything. Let's get a head start. Let's get that to going, because that's what happened with Site C Dam. Hey, we got a permit to build a dam. We don't have the roads to get the equipment there. We don't have the roads to do this. We don't have the infrastructure.
Is that one of the reasons why it took so long?
Part of the reason why it did take a long time.
Mm.
There's a lot of variables that play into this. And we got to get serious with our rail. We got to get the federal government being like, hey, we need rail here. We need to mitigate the amount of trucks. If we can take some of those loads off the trucks and on rail, we don't have to bring in a bunch of foreign workers to fill in those positions.
I mean, we haven't built rail in this country almost since the...
And we're about to get taken to school by Manitoba. They have a robust train system. Once they get their products across the border into Chicago, it's game over. They can go wherever they want. We all know that.
Right.
Biggest hub. And
Manitoba build this themselves, or do they?
Manufacturers are flocking there because they have property is cheap.
Right.
They don't have to compete with the Lower Mainland $5 million an acre.
Yeah.
They can buy it for couple hundred grand over there.
Imagine the corporate tax rate might be lower too, possibly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now here in BC, we haven't done anything in the north or the interior, anywhere in the rural parts. Let's start working with some businesses, build out our ports, build out our rail, and let's get things to market. Because if we get our minerals out of the ground and we start working on a rail, Grays Bay is going to be a really deep water Arctic passage over in the territories. And that's how a lot of this is going to go to China. We could be the first ones to the market if we have our ducks in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I do not want to happen what happened with LNG. Now Japan set the global market and everything. We have our own labor laws, our own restrictions, regulations, and everything we have to follow. Now we're going to have to compete to get a better price than the Japanese. It is going to be tough.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be the first out of the gates, not the last one, second or third. We need to lead the charge. This is Canada, one of the most amazing countries. We need to actually act like it. We need governments that are going to act like it, that are going to actually bring it to fruition.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that's well said. To finish off on the topic of transportation, I'm going to go back to your point you made earlier, which is there's been too many projects started and they're not getting to completion. And it's almost like this perpetual, let's start this project and then it just gets delayed and there's more money being spent on consultants and whatnot. My brother-in-law is an engineer. He's actually one of the lead engineers for that, the new bridge over in New West there. What is that bridge? The Patella Bridge. And he was telling me the story of the amount of money that's been allocated for First Nations art to go onto this bridge. And I mean, it sounds nice. It sounds kind of like the community. What did you call that agreement earlier?
Benefits agreement.
Community benefits agreement. It sounds nice, but I thought to myself, the number was it was definitely $3 to $4 million just for some Indigenous art to kind of sit at the front of the bridge. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of crazy. And he was telling me about the cost overruns, which you were highlighting, where his organization doesn't even have the direct contract. Some other larger engineering organization won the contract, and then they subbed it out. So that's when you're telling me this,
ones that are doing the wastewater treatment.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking, as he was telling me this, I mean, it's just amazing the waste, the government waste. Yeah. What I want to ask you is this, to put you on the spot. So you mentioned there's a lot of projects that are not getting to completion, and we need projects to get to completion so we can keep the goods moving in this province. If you were to pick two projects that have either been announced or in the beginning of stages of being built or whatever stage it might be, two projects you'd love to see to come to completion as quickly as possible, and two that you would say, I would shelve these so that we can get these two done.
That's a tough one. I know.
Well, I like asking tough questions.
I would say, honestly, Highway 1 would free up a lot. It would see.
So it would be in the category over here of let's get this.
Let's get Highway 1 done.
Okay.
It's less kind of issues that you're going to rise with building bridges and tunnels.
Okay.
It's a little more stable of a project, and it's a stretch.
Yeah.
let's get this done. Let's get the machinery.
And not
Let's get everyone in there.
2034.
No. We need this done now because
Yeah.
it's adding cost to our freight.
Yeah.
The products we purchase from the stores. There's an added cost to everything in transport.
Yeah.
There's same gravel runs I was doing from Vancouver, from Chilliwack, 3 hours. Now it takes you 4.5.
Wow, really?
It's just clogged. You can maybe
Yeah.
get 1 or 2 loads out of the day when you used to get 3.
That's pretty material when you scale it up.
Scale it up,
Well,
how
all
many
the
loads of gravel are needed
efficiency.
per project and
Yeah.
everything, it blows it up.
Okay, so the Highway 1 corridor would be one of your top
It
picks.
has
Just
to
push
be.
that, just jam that through, get it done, put resources in and just get it done.
And then I would
What would be your second one that you'd
I
want to
would
see?
say the tunnel.
Get the tunnel done.
Or not, honestly, I don't know if it's going to be the tunnel or bridge. I wish it was a bridge.
Yeah.
I would say just
But at this point,
if
you'd
we
be like, you
can't
take
get
a
the
tunnel.
environmental done in a fast period of time,
Yeah,
go to a bridge. Let's get
Right.
it built.
right.
Let's get this done because the ports are paying the price for it.
Yeah,
That's huge. We need to get some revenue out of these ports. We need to help our ports.
hmm
It's a great way to mitigate the trucking and everything else. So if we can work on that, get these projects going, it would really help.
goods
the
are
Lower Mainland.
goods are going in and out through the port, through that tunnel, but it's just a bottleneck. Is that the main
It's
issue?
a big bottleneck.
Right.
So if you have a load there, you need to get it across. That truck sitting there, time costs money.
Right.
And that's the missing equation this NDP government doesn't realize. People don't have the time to waste in these traffic jams anymore. Life is too busy.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes away from your family.
It's one thing when
from
you're
your
driving,
kids.
you're late to your kid's hockey practice, but it's different when you got a payload of a bunch of goods that are worth a lot of money.
You got a load of concrete on, asphalt, everyone
Right.
at the job site saying, hey, where are you?
Where are you?
It's going to be too cold. You get to the job site, inspector's like, too cold, take it back, dump it.
Is that what happens?
Sometimes it can happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so Highway 1 corridor and tunnel or bridge, basically to expand what the Massie tunnel has today. Those would be the ones you'd fast track. What would you shelve? That's the tough question. You got to come up with something.
Well, if I could take it back, I'd shelve the tunnel because that's a terrible plan. But couple projects right now that you would probably want to shelve. Something unpopular, but Patola Bridge, why are we going to do 4 lanes with 4 lanes?
Right.
Makes no sense. To me, that's why I would say that would be one of the ones that
Yeah.
shelve.
Yeah.
It's 4 and 4. I understand on the one right now as a trucker, some truckers who are inexperienced have to cut over and take both lanes across and get back to 1. But the way this design is, it needed another lane. We could have had a lane that connected right on to Columbia,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't have to do that U-around every time. There's ways we could have done it, kind of like the Golden Years.
Right.
That was actually a great design because it takes you into various areas. You can exit 2-3 different ways,
Right.
which really helped the flow of traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Like that bridge is built to last for a while.
Yeah.
It
That
will
they
actually
did that
help
well.
with traffic and everything. And the second project,
Yeah.
this one's a tough one. There isn't actually a lot of other ones that are shelved, like Broadway line. What do? Just leave it as a whole right now?
Right.
You can't really do that.
Yeah.
There are a couple other ones that they're thinking about starting that I kind of feel could be put on the little bit of a back burner.
Yeah. What would those be?
A section of what I would do is there's a couple bridges couple things that they're doing in the rural parts, and they're not doing it the right way where I feel they should be doing it. Some of the connectors they're working on, they're not really adding another lane. They're just working out some soft spots. So some of those I would shelve and work out a way to actually get it to the full extent, add a lane to it. I'm sick of doing projects that are 2 lanes replacing 2 lanes.
Right. Yeah.
One
that
lane
seems to
replacing
make
one
sense.
lane.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me. So why are we doing this?
What do you
Why
think the
don't we
reason is?
expand? A lot
Is
of
it
it's
cost saving?
population. They always say, oh, the
Or is it-
population isn't there yet. That's
Oh.
the biggest issue I hear about the second crossing in Kelowna. They're like, well, the population isn't that big. So they don't do anything. What they could also do is pave the 201, that emergency access. So when there is a mudslide or a landslide, they can hop over and take that 201, and it's not like you're driving on a logging road.
Right.
Someone's getting a flat tire or someone's breaking a spring or something.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things they can do that way.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's good. Well, we've covered that transportation topic quite well, and I appreciate you being willing to be put on the hot spot and give us some answers there because a lot of people wouldn't be willing to do that.
If I can't do that, I shouldn't be in this position. Let's be honest. We got to change the way politics is done.
Yeah.
If you can't answer the questions, don't be in the seat.
Yeah.
I play sports.
That's a good.
You're not going to go out there and go against the top-notch guy. No, you're getting run over. Your head coach is going to put someone in there that can take on that talent, right?
What was your sport?
Football.
Football?
Football.
Yeah,
I like
it.
football, baseball.
Yeah.
I love all sports.
Yeah.
Huge fan.
Yeah.
But football was my...
This is a good segue into our next topic, which is government accountability and transparency. Public trust in government spending and transparency continues to seem to erode here in British Columbia. As I mentioned earlier, we're seeing massive deficits year after year, deficits that far exceed what we saw during COVID-19. And it's having an impact on our debt markets. We're seeing credit rating agencies have been downgrading our provincial debt. We used to have a AAA credit rating.
Yeah.
In fact, we were the only province in the country for many, many years, probably nearly a decade, with the only AAA credit rating, which is, it is like the best credit rating you can get. And what that means is just as, as you as an individual going into a bank, when you have a low credit score, doesn't mean your bank won't lend to you. If you and I both walk into a place and I'm notorious for not paying my credit card bills on time and paying my, fees and that kind of thing. I'm not good with managing my money, and you're very astute, with your money. And we both go in to get a $500,000 mortgage on a place we've bought. The bank will likely lend to both of us, but the rate I'm going to get charged is going to be higher than the rate you're going to get charged. That's how it works. And it works on a more macroeconomic level. It works the exact same way. So our borrowing cost is going up because of this massive government spending that's going on. Mm-hmm. So tying that back to accountability and transportation, I guess this is more around the theme of accountability. What's your take on the accountability, especially on a financial perspective, of this BC NDP government today?
There is no accountability. There's no oversight. There's no checks and balances. You look at the transportation sector when these projects are out. When I first started out, you never heard of 30, 40% contingencies. You hear them all the time. You're lucky to get 5 to 15 cost overrun of a project where you hit some challenges that you may have to do some additional work. Now, even on some of the projects that are given on bid, I'd like to see them have a process where they actually go back and look at the last few projects you've done. Was it on time? Was it on budget? Was there deficiencies yet to come back and take care of? Was there any safety issues on there? Did everyone get paid that were a part of that project?
Those are all good questions.
These key 5 things.
Those things don't happen right now?
No. You had a Highway 1 project where people didn't get paid for months. October, they're just getting paid now.
I actually watched a clip on YouTube of you talking about this, actually.
There's a gravel pit, mainland sand and gravel. They actually are owned by a big conglomerate, Quikrete in the States. Quikrete actually bought out Summit, which was owned Winvan Paving and also mainland sand and gravel. So they've acquired it now, and they're owed $1.74 million from that project. It's been 5 months. This is a big company, huge provider. What if they say,
because they're American?
Maybe, right?
No, but they need to pay their bills.
Is this, right? You got to pay your bills because they have bills to pay too. And this is a company that's actually unionized under one of the unions too. The workforce is private company, but they are unionized. They're labor force. And what if Mainland's like, we're not getting paid on time. Next project, we're not even giving you a product. We have other people that will take it. That's going to drive the costs up.
Right.
Because some of these pits are positioned perfectly well that they're right by the jobs. So that's what I want to see. Some more accountability, some more checks and balances, some oversight, actually. Let's see what's going on in this.
So how would you make that happen? Like, what would your steps be to create more accountability around avoiding cost overruns on these projects?
When these jobs are getting bid out, we should have every company submit a report telling them, hey, this is my last few projects. This is how they were, if there was any of those things, and you assess it. And one thing we got to stop doing is always taking the lowest bid.
Right.
It seems to be everyone gets the lowest bid. But I remember when I first started, highest and lowest, we used to almost always get tossed out.
Yes.
Then they'd really look at it. They'd review how much was this person going to spend in the gravel, in the excavation, concrete, and all these other fractions of building a roads and infrastructure. They would actually go down and break it down. Now it just seems to be, I don't know exactly how they're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem to be like companies that I see getting bids. I'm like, whoa, they've never done a project this size. How are they getting this? Or how is that happening? And how is this person getting it and able to sub it out to another company? There's a lot of this going on. And if a company...
Well, it sounds like a lack of transparency.
Put it this way. If a company bids on a project for a community and they get the bid, and there was another company that was bidding against them, and the company that won subs it to that other contractor,
Right.
you should just scrap that contract and go to the contract that subbed out company was. Because if
that's
you're going to buy up
crazy.
the work and you're going to just take the benefits and take that little profit margin and get someone else to do the work, we'll just hire the people that are doing
you're like a paper middleman.
Exactly. NDP's created middlemen in everything.
Wow.
Look at the consulting. Right? It's become, you never saw this type of consulting in any ways.
Yeah.
And it obviously adds a layer of price and cost, which who pays at the end? The consumer. It's like the business mind of the NDP is non-existent.
Do you believe David Eby and his government is transparent?
David Eby is the most extreme premier we've ever had. I am blown away that he is a premier in this province. This is a guy that wrote a book how to circumvent the justice system, get criminals off, and alienated the police in our justice system. It is mind-blowing to me that this is the premier of a province. This is the state that we are at in Canada, in British Columbia. It's sad because everything that is to do with economics and growing and building this province, he has put a full stop to. But everything that decays the streets, that destroys communities, safe supply, decriminalization, and everything else, he has unleashed, not just into the major urban areas, in every small rural part throughout British Columbia. It is the policies of David Eby and the BC NDP.
Well, Harman, I've noticed on social media that despite you being the transportation critic, you've really taken it upon yourself to go down into, we talked just before we started filming about going down to Pandora Street, and being from Victoria myself. I mean, there was never any tents and homelessness and drug addiction like we see today. It's actually kind of insane. It's bizarre. We talked about it as almost like Gotham City.
Yeah, that TV show.
Yeah.
And it was alarming because I don't know if you watched Legislature. Ravi Kellen, during a question period, one of our colleagues asked a question. He had said something like 19 people are in Pandora. I'm like, man, There's driven, walked by there. No way. I'm going out there. I'm walking by there. And a couple of people actually were saying, Harman, come out here. We have a politician. All you guys are afraid. You say you're going to do this. Why don't you grow one and come out here? And I'm like, let's do this.
Yeah.
Because if I can't walk down there, why should any other British Columbian?
Yeah.
If politicians can't walk the same street, why do you expect others to?
Yeah.
I think that's wrong.
Well, guys, Harman Bhangu here. A lot of you said before you leave Victoria, check out Pandora. So I am here. I'm walking down Pandora, and I'm looking at this. This is the mess that David Eby and the NDP policies have created. Instead of showing compassion for people and actually finding them the real supports they need, they keep putting people on the streets and giving them safe supply. This is the chaos it's caused. Take a first-hand look. This is not compassion. This is not putting British Columbians in the best position to succeed, that are dealing with addiction, that are dealing with mental health issues. This is sad. My heart aches for the people here. We need to actually get to a table and talk about things to find them real help. This is not how they should be living. You guys wanted me to come down here and check it out yourselves. I'm not going to be one of those politicians afraid to walk the streets. If British Columbians can't walk the streets, then how can anyone? This is absolutely madness. And I just wanted to let you know, I'm going to get out here. I'm going to go there and visit the places that you want me to go to. And hey, we're out of this session now. You want me to come in and take a tour of your town? Reach out to me. I will show up. Share this far and wide, and let's get some change happening in British Columbia.
What did you learn from that? Was that your first time down there?
No, I've been there. Like I've said, Andrew, I've dealt with addiction when I was playing football, young kid.
Yeah.
Get me on the field.
Yeah.
I don't care. I want to play, right?
Yeah.
Then I was lucky I had the support systems to help me.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I don't think what's going on there, I know, okay, maybe they intended it to be a good thing, but they forgot the biggest piece of the Portugal model, which was dissuasion.
Right.
Creating a number where parents can call in. They come in and assess their kid. They say, hey, you know, we found some drugs in our kid's pocket. Is this a big thing? They go around the community asking people, you know what, your kid was just experimenting. Keep an eye on it. There is this type of stuff that goes on in Portugal, but does it go on here in BC with this pillar that they said they forgot the biggest pillar that they needed with decriminalization and safe supply.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's been a train wreck.
Yeah.
And I feel we got to start helping people. And the stigma, like myself, like I couldn't imagine going to one of these downtown East Side clinics. I wouldn't want to walk in there.
Yeah.
We got to figure out more creative ways to get people help, because it's not just people who are on the streets using these drugs. It's blue collar, white collar, construction industry, you name it. People.
Well, you know, Harman, that video you took on Pandora Street, which is a kind of a sort of a smaller version of what we see in the downtown East Side. I get a chance to travel around the province a lot just because of my kids' hockey, and we go to tournaments and whatnot. I've seen the same thing in Vernon. I've seen it in my hometown of Port Alberni.
Mhm.
I've seen it in Nanaimo. It's like pretty much widespread across the province. It's not just a big city problem anymore.
It's everywhere. Because look,
And do you believe the safe
supply's
supply?
everywhere? Decriminalization's everywhere.
I remember.
When criminals,
yeah.
as if you're a dealer, like Seattle, I watched a lot of what was going on there, and I watched a lot of shows and everything. And one thing I caught on was over there, what happened, the dealers were doing, they were hiding 2.5 grams of stashes, small bits. No one needs 2.5 grams of fentanyl or heroin for personal use.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
So they were stashing them everywhere. So they would go around, sell the drugs rampantly. Cop would come up. I got under 2.5 grams. You can't do anything to me. This is my personal use. So they would continuously sell it. You run out, you go to your other stash spot. You keep doing this. You just flood areas. Where do you think people are going to go to get the product to use? They're going to know you can go into this area. There's people running around. Cops can't bust you. No one can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's created this. In every single community throughout this province, it is heartbreaking to see.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that's heartbreaking is sometimes in life you make bad decisions. Correct them. Own it.
Yeah.
Admit it.
Yeah.
Let's move on. And the NDP government could do that, but they keep doubling down on these policies. That's the disturbing part.
Mm-hmm. Well, it certainly hasn't gotten any better.
No.
And what is Albert Einstein's theory of insanity is to repeat the same
thing over and
over and expect
over
different
again.
results.
Well, we've done that with housing, drugs, crime, you name it. They've done it with everything, double down, and it's always the same result, complete disaster.
Yeah. This is a pretty new role for you. I mean, you're not a politician by trade. I mean, you come from the trucking industry.
Yeah, trucking business background, and
yeah.
sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're only 40 years old, you're a young guy. How has this been as far as, I mean, you've only been in this role it's been about 1.5 years now, or how long have you?
2021. I actually helped a little bit back in 2020, even with the BC Liberals a little bit.
Yeah.
I had a couple friends that were running. So I was like, you know what, let's help them out.
No, but as far as an elected official,
yeah.
was just 2024, right?
2024.
Yeah. So, how have you found this whole? Maybe you could talk a minute about the BC Conservative Party. I mean, you've got, you guys had a big boost in your profile. The election was weird, man. It was like you had the BC Liberals, and they were gunning to come and try and take over the BC NDP, and John Rusted, who has been a guest on Coastal Front, as you know, came in, and then all of a sudden, like, Kevin Falcon just killed the BC Liberals, which probably helped the Conservatives. And then you guys got a huge increase in seats. And then subsequently you've had 3 people who've left. They call themselves independents now. Mm-hmm. What's the story with these 3 people? I don't even know who they are. There's Dallas, Brody, and 2 other people.
Yeah, Tara Armstrong and Jordan Keeley. There's certain things they felt like we weren't doing, but I'll be honest here. I'm able to do whatever I want. I was able to go on this podcast, another one. John's not micromanaging us in ways, which I kind of like. Come from sports.
Yeah.
When you micro coach and you're just doing everything,
totally.
it blows up. You
Yeah.
have a great team on paper,
Yeah.
but you can't get it together on the field. It's because you're being micromanaged.
Yeah.
You're not unleashing your
Yeah.
potential.
Yeah, let your great players
Your
play.
guys get out there and engage the community, represent them,
Yeah.
do the stuff they want you to do. Because we got to get the power back in the people's hands.
Mhm.
And that's what John has let me do.
Mhm.
I can't say anything wrong about what he's done. I think he's doing a great job. And yes, you're going to have growing pains as a party. But I look around in our caucus. We got Ward Stamer, industry professional in forestry as a forestry critic, and a mayor. Brings abundance of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of people like this. Anna Kindy, she's a doctor. She's a health critic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You go at Eleanor Stricko, police officer, public safety.
Right.
Claire Rattay, mental health. She's someone that knows the hard life of being on the streets, of being in the downtown east side and in these types of places. And she's crawled back up with that inner spirit. And she's out here sharing her story and actually helping British Columbians and giving them a first-hand view of what it was like and what worked for her and what sees now currently
Yeah.
and why it wouldn't work. I think she's got a good idea on how things would be in that area. So you have people that have real life
Strong
experience,
team.
strong team,
Yeah.
and they all have valuable information to add. And I love that about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you look at the other side, Mike Farnworth, all the respect to him, right? Public service, I respect everything he's done. But transport, I was like, man, what's he done in transport?
Mhm.
You look at the other side and other things. Has this Ravi came from grass hockey and other things, municipal affairs and home building. Where's the background home building?
Yeah.
You go even Ravi Parmar. Has he done forestry? He's been a political CA and whatever else throughout his whole career. You got to get industry professionals in here to run this like a business. You're not going to have run a business that you have no idea what's going on there.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing is we need to get back to having people that can actually represent these communities, these ministries, and actually bring some positive change and some knowledge, some feedback, some life skills to it.
Mhm.
Because everyone can read a book, pass tests, but can you get out there with a shovel and do it?
Right. Well said.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Harman, do you think there's any possibility that we might see what do they call it? Confidence vote before the next scheduled election?
It is a possibility. You look at the way they're doing. I look across at some of the NDP MLAs. I bet they're worried. The ones that won by a couple hundred votes, 1,000 votes. Now you have Bill 7, 14, and 15, which tells maybe some of the people in the community municipal that helped them. They're like, hey, your party just sidelined us. We're not helping you anymore.
Right.
That could play a part into it. You look at a lot of the Indigenous communities. They could turn on some of the candidates. And it was shocking to see some of the Indigenous MLAs on the NDP do what they did, right? So
Right.
it's going to be it'll be interesting.
I guess all you need is one by-election.
Put it this way. Our caucus is itching to get back in there in October so we can get back in there. But the one thing that, is going to be missing is those debates, holding them account on those bills, because the cabinet powers that
There's no more debates?
Yeah, on some of the stuff, it's because the bills got passed through. They can kind of just jam everything through. But I'll tell you right now, if they're not going to let me debate, but you'll see me on social media every single day, 20 times a day, if that's what it takes, because I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to let British Columbians' voice be silenced. Like, I'm not a typical politician. I don't have an elite background, fancy degrees.
Yeah.
But what I do have is a work ethic and a motor that never stops. And I will continuously fight for British Columbians because I want them to have a voice again.
Well said. Harman Bhangu, BC Conservative MLA for Langley Abbotsford. And we talked about Bill 15, transportation projects. I love your passion, man. It's pretty neat to see.
Thank you.
And
been following you too for a while, so it's an honor to be on here, right?
Yeah.
So
glad to have you.
Thank you.
Best of luck with everything, and look forward to having you come in again sometime in the near future as you continue to push this BC NDP government to make them account. That's your job right now. So keep it up.
I also want to give a huge shout out to my wife and my kids and my family, because without them, I wouldn't be sitting here. There's a lot of people that have supported me throughout this, a lot of friends and family. And I just really want to give them the shout out and tell them, hey, I'm not changing. I'm always going to stay the Harman that's been here. I'm always going to fight for you. My allegiance is to British Columbians and the people, first and foremost. And that's where I stand. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Harman.